Hello. Did I press the right button? The law shades are on. The law shades are on. Sound should be okay. That says, is the sound okay? Is the sound okay? Are we okay? Is everyone okay? Good evening, Eric, Epic, Adam, Daniel. Welcome to the chat. Not a lot of people in the chat this evening. Good morning, California. And I'm quite pleased there's not a lot of people in the chat. It's all good. It's all good. Epic Votam, we're good. Good. I'm quite pleased there's not a lot of people in the chat because honestly, what we're going to talk about this evening is going to spoil the crap out of a book series that you should all read. Good evening, George. You should all read. It's fun. It's the second best series I've read in my life after Lord of the Rings. The second best collection of. I mean, Lord of the Rings is one book, isn't it? Really. But if I think about all the book series that I've read and all the Horus Heresy, 17 years, man. 17 years. And we got to the end and the death. And today, we're going to talk about it. Bobiverse? What do you mean? Let the YouTube adverts begin. Yes, Mick the Machine. Hello, hi, Buffalo. Listen, I went in after the complaints last time about the adverts being on too regularly and the audio being too high for them. And there's a thing that you can press. I pressed the thing. Those should be less. Yes, I finished it. I finished it, Hobo. I finished it twice. Yes. I read it and then I did it on Audible. So all three of them twice. Yes, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So if you're in the chat, you have been warned and you haven't done this thing. If you are in the chat, then I hope you've done this thing and you'll join in the discussion because I'd really like to talk things through with you guys and hear what your ideas are and your thoughts and your feedback. And of course, this is a normal Talky Tuesday, so if you want to talk about anything else redunculous, then throw me some questions and let's get it on. But at the start, I have to start off by thanking everyone for choosing to support, to subscribe, be a member, all those sorts of things. Thank you. And to every member of the Mug Club who is out there. Coffee. We are now up to 47 members in the Mug Club. 47. There was a bit of a stampede because the tech priest behind the scenes changed the store around a little bit and some of the bits in the store tidied that up a little bit. So yeah, if you want to support me by getting merchandise, go to the YouTube store thing. That's the thing. Join the Mug Club. We even have Mug Club stickers now, thanks to Mick the Machine. Law glasses are on. Yes. There's no Alpha Legion sat down there. Yeah, there is an Alpha Legion actually sat in the basement with his bomb on his chest. Not only is it the Alpha Legion, it's the first captain of the Alpha Legion sat down in the Imperial Palace on Terra with a bomb in his chest. Still struggling with Loken's End. Nasir Amit's story arc was very good. Yeah, okay, question. Is Horus beyond repair like the previous law made him out? Seeing as he dies from the anathema over Big E's Chimera. Is he dead? Nerd. N-E-R-D. No one ever really dies. Now, in the previous law, it was assumed that Horus was destroyed in mind, body, spirit, physically gone, and he's been extinguished. This one ends with the Empress saying the words, "I will wait, and I forgive you." I will wait. Is he waiting for him? Is that an indication that Horus may come back after he stabs him with the anathema and then powers the power of the Holy Church through the anathema into the blade to destroy him? Does that mean that Horus is going to come back and he's waiting for him? Another way of I wait. I will. He can be like he talked to the Chaos Gods at the beginning through Horus, like, what have you done and why? And he's talking to the Chaos Gods. I got that straight away, by the way. As soon as he enters the throne room, starts chatting with Horus. He's not talking to Horus. He's talking to the Four, the old Four. And I picked up what they were putting down straight away before Horus said it. I'm wondering when he says, I will wait, or I'm waiting, that bit, whether the first bit of the sentence he says is to the old Four. I'll wait. And then to Horus he says, and I forgive you. to Horus. Maybe it's a message to both of them. Maybe Horus is dead. What do we think? Do we think Green Mug Club? Yes. Do we think he's dead? Welcome back to 40k Adam San. Your Leviathans. Are we talking about it? But no, Liam. We are actually talking about it this time. Not saying we're talking about it, but not actually talking about it yet. No, we're really talking about it. Spoiler talk. The end and the death. That's what we're here for. To talk. Mick was a little disappointed with the latest book. Normally listen to each of them at least twice over to help me back in mind. But once you've not bothered with this one. This one was hard to do a second time because it took 17 years to get to the end this time. It was hard to do it 2 times over because Dan Abnett takes you down into the dark, takes you down into the deep. The clocks have run out. Things have stopped. Time and space is breaking apart, and he keeps you down there. It doesn't end in book 2. It goes on to book 3. It's a long time in the dark, in the deep. A lot of threads. It's a hard one. Emotionally, it's a hard one. I cried. Poor Garviel. I know. Why didn't Garviel? I mean, Erebus, Garviel. Why? I mean, no one needs another reason to hate Erebus. And now they've given us another reason to hate Erebus. You think he's dead, at least until they want to do the 40k end times. You think he's dead. I think all of the Primarchs, most of the Primarchs are coming back at some point. I've said it many times. Primarchs make money. We've got the Lion, we've got Guilliman, we've got Magnus, we've got loads of them back now. They're going to keep coming back. Whether Horus comes back or not, I think Horus coming back will be aligned with... I'm not sure. I think that's going to be one of those that they'll just leave hanging over us for another decade or 2. Horus returning for either side in 40k would sell so much plastic. Exactly. It's all about selling the plastic, right? It's all about selling the plastic. Killing Loken created Samus, yes. And of course, just like Slaanesh was born when the Eye of Terror burst into existence, that's Slaanesh being born in the physical universe, because Slaanesh, the 4th Chaos God, is eternal and was always in the warp, always living there, but waiting to manifest for the first time in the physical universe, which is the what the Eldar did and the birth of the Eye of Terror. Samus being born in the physical universe happens with the end and the death. The man beside you, the only voice you'll hear. So Samus first appears at the end and the death. Nice, huh? I'm very interested to see if they connect Sanguinius' soul death explosion directly to the Sanguinor in the novel at any point. We'll see if they do, maybe. I'm not sure they need to. I think the Sanguinor is his own thing, maybe. How has Samus been in the Horus Heresy to this point? Because demons are immortal. They have lived since the warp lived, and they will die when the warp dies. A demon isn't a demon. A demon is a piece. It is a manifestation, is a figment, is a piece of ash. So Khorne himself is a massive chaos god, and sometimes he allows bits of himself to have their own will, to have their own soul, to have their own freedom, to not soul, but you know what I mean. Bits of himself, their independence, their autonomy. And Samus is one of those bits. And he was born in real space and in real time at the time of the end and the death. But he's eternal. He was around beforehand, sort of. Warp stuff, you know, warp trickery, things like that. Horus repented on his deathbed? Not necessarily repented, no. Not really. Horus is dead. Is he? Dead Primarch should stay dead. I think Horus should, yes, if you're asking me my opinion, I think Horus should stay dead, Ferris should stay dead, Sanguinius should stay dead. The dead ones, Kurz, The dead ones should definitely stay dead. It kind of diminishes something if the dead ones come back again, you know what I mean? Leave them dead. Is Samus from Khorne then? Yes, I think so. I think he's definitely a Khorne. That's a good question, actually. Is Samus from... I've always assumed Samus was Khorne because the art and the stuff, that he's always been one of the red ones. But he could be Tzeentch, or he could be Undivided. He could be one of the... There are a couple of demon princes out there that owe their allegiance to none of the gods, like Vashtor and the other guy, the black one, the first demon prince. Him, I keep forgetting his name. Wasn't Asmus the first murder? No, Dracnian is the echo of the first murder. Which is a demon that was unleashed on the war and the webway. We're spoiling everything this evening, by the way. If you're in this chat, things are going to get spoiled. But there was a war in the webway, and the demon that managed to injure the Emperor was a Dracnian, which will, of course, later become the sword that the Despoiler uses. The only dead ones you're okay with coming back is Alfarius and Omegon due to their nature. Yeah, like Alfarius is dead. Allegedly, but I don't buy that. I mean, even Omegon felt it, but I don't buy that. That Alfarius is dead. Because, I mean, he knew... it seems pretty conclusive, but the Alpha Legion have said that they mess with the minds of others, and they even mess with their own memories and their own minds and their own things as well. You know what I mean? So Be'lakor, thank you. Yeah, Be'lakor undivided. Maybe Samus is undivided. Maybe these guys have just taken from the warp itself. And thank you, Blood Buffalo, for becoming a member of the fleet. Welcome to the 13th Fleet, Tier 1. Thank you. You legend. Yay. Alfarius is my favourite Primal book so far. Alfarius, Kurz, and Valdor, Birth of the Imperium are the three ones that stand out for me. Off-topic question. Ferrus Manus body was recovered and taken to Mars. Both bits, was it? Was it really? They get his skull at the end. Ferrus Manus' skull, at least. So I don't know where the body ends up. Probably with Fabius Bile. So the end of the death is over. Valdor 9 out of 10. You just wish there was more to it. Ferris's head was recovered by dawn. Yes, at the end of the death. Yes. Simply Warhammer, thank you for gifting a membership. I appreciate you. Check out Simply Warhammer on YouTube for simply Warhammer type topics and things. He doesn't really. It's Simply Warhammer. You're in the chat. Thank you for the gifting of the membership. Appreciate you. Yeah. So the end of the death. So happy I got to be here on this. I'd like to know what you think about Sanguinius' death. No chink in the armour. He died without leaving any scars on Horus. What do I think about Sanguinius' death? I think Sanguinius' death was done very well, and he did die without... Well, no, I mean, he slit open his belly. He laid a couple of death blows into Horus. They did the fight backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Horus, obviously... from the first person, you let him do this. You let her. And then Sanguinius went Super Saiyan and landed a couple of death blows, and Horus was like, oh, I'm dead. I need to stop this now. And grabbed him and smashed the living shit out of him. And I think that the Horus and Sanguinius fight was done very well. I really appreciated the fact that after the fight, Horus brutalized him, like smash, 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 smashed. And then they took his corpse up and staked it and pinned it and crucified. Demons literally crucified his corpse onto that chaos. I like the fact that it was grim in the dark. He wasn't holding back any punches there. He killed an angel and made us feel it. And to my mind, that was done well. Can we talk about how cool the Ark of Ol being one of Jason's... Yeah, I mean, there's some people out there that don't like the Oleanus Pearson arc. There's some people out there that don't like Grammaticus. There is a percentage, I think it's a small percentage of the Black Library fan base that are not pleased about the Perpetuals and the humans in the story of the Horus Heresy. Me, again, personally, I think it's nice. It's not just transhuman and transhuman all the way through. I think throughout all the whole of the Horus Heresy that we get some really great human characters. Larita Saren on board. Angron's flagship springs to mind immediately. She's a boss. Euphrates Keeler, of course, and then Grammaticus and the other Perpetuals. I like the fact that we've got this human story going through it. And then Ol's story. He is the oldest Perpetual that we know and the oldest friend of the Emperor that we know. We have the man that did nothing versus the man that did everything. But the man who did nothing had a moral weight behind him. And the man who did everything, the Emperor, is a man of loose morals, or someone who thinks that morals doesn't apply to him, or someone who thinks that he can define his own moral order. So you have that juxtaposition going on between those two characters, which is very, very nice to see. And then, of course, Dan Abbott's also tying together some of the old lore strands, like the guardsman that stood in front of the Emperor. That thing, it's good. It's a nice bit of. It puts you in the throne room as a human being. What would you do? Stood between these two battling gods, and in the end, I mean, there's a bit where Grammaticus says, "We'll die," and he's like, "Well, then we die. It's what we got to do anyway." You know what I mean? I quite like it. Leaving one of Jason's Argonauts in the actual lore, delivering Cain and Abel. Yes, it's a stone. It's an anathema. In the end, a father kills his son with a stone. And that story's been going. That's a story as old as time, as long as there's been fathers and sons and stones. That's a nice little touch there. Loved it. Should Loken have just died on Isfahan? It perhaps would have been better if they'd have just killed him on Isfahan then, instead of bringing him back and do the whole Cerberus thing, but no one ever really dies. So Loken came back. Did you need... I mean, Loken at the end, it could have been Abaddon at the end doing the chats with the Horus and trying to break through and get rid of this. You don't have to carry this weight anymore. Now you've achieved everything that you set to achieve. Now you have won. Then shrug off the power. Why hold on to it? And Horus is like, well, it is. He feels the pain of it. He feels the burden of it. He says himself that it would be such a relief to get rid of it for a bit. Do you need Loken doing that bit? It could have been Abaddon. But Loken came back, and seeing as Loken is back, and we like Loken, from the Cerberus story arc onwards, we get epic Loken. So I'm down with Loken being in it, but it would have been, he has a lot of plot armor. Loken's got a lot of plot armor. I mean, even in his Horus Heresy rules, he gets back up again. You know what I mean? Oh dear. I have a theory. The Emperor has split his soul and sent a piece into the warp. That piece is now in apotheosis in the warp as the Golden Throne. Other half acts as a conduit for all the psychic prayer power. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with all, actually. One is the ends justifies the means guy, and the other is the guy that says no, they don't. Yeah, that's the juxtaposition between all and the Emperor. I like it. And it's his moral conviction to stand in front of Horus. Yeah. And is he dead? Is all dead? I mean, Horus atomizes him, but we've seen Vulcan atomized a few times, and he gets better. You know what I mean? Thanks, Chewy. Welcome to the chat. I've got the lore shades on because we're talking lore. Only be in here if you want to have any part of the Horus Heresy spoiled for you, this is the place to be, because I'm not holding back in this one. You think the second mic is in use? It's definitely coming through this mic. It's definitely coming through. Hello? Hello, hello, hello. You know, you might be right. I think that killed. You know what? I think you're right. I think the second right, yeah. No, it's definitely not coming through that mic. Yes. Is that better now? Okay, so 20 minutes in and the sound is good. Lovely. Can hear now. Bingo. Guys, at the beginning, I think it was Epic Votan, and I said, is the sound okay? And one person said yes. Normally it's like 10 people who say yes or no, but this is unacceptable. This is a team effort here. When the things are not working, you need to shout at me. Where were we? Finally, sound. Sound is here. We have a sound. Welcome to the End of the Death spoiler talk. We're talking about the End of the Death. We're talking about the Horus Heresy. We're talking about anything you want during the Horus Heresy. Loken was the last survivor of Isfahan 3. There was a few in the book. Loken was a survivor from Isfahan 3, but in the book itself only mentions a couple, but in the lore, the overall lore, there's definitely a few more that survived Isfahan 3. Yes. Can you go back and answer all the questions again? What were the questions, Liam? Liam T? What do you want to? What are the questions? Is there a question? Ask me a question. I liked the. Okay, so I'll wait for your question. Yes, young king, you need to do better next time. That's fine. Sounds better. I know it sounds better now, Heretic Hammer. We did some sound stuff. And we remade the sound, more of the sound. So the sound should be better now. Sigismund did not impress me. Not as good as people go on about. Sigismund didn't impress you. Sigismund didn't impress you. Sigismund went through the entire Horus Heresy and he never lost a fight. I can't think of another character that went through the entire Horus Heresy and didn't lose a fight. I mean, Khan lost, Abaddon lost a couple, Loken lost a couple, Garrow lost he lost a Mortarion, Lucius lost a fight, Sharrokin. I can't think of another guy who went all the way through the Horus Heresy undefeated. Sigismund is 100-0. How could he not impress you? Loving the new Abaddon lore. Amit. Amit was good. Amit? What about Amit? Amit the Flesh Terror may have not lost a fight in the lore, but he certainly lost his wits a few times and went off and slaughtered a few people. He did it in Fear to Tread on the Cygnus cluster. He killed the Space Wolf Watch pack that was sent to look after Sanguinius, and he lost his marbles in the Siege of Terror as well when Sanguinius died. So yeah, my fave Sigismund moment is in the Black Legion books. Okay. He also lost a few. First one against Khan. He didn't lose against Khan. He did get backhanded by Fulgrim. Okay, so that's an exception. I mean, it's a Primarch. Here's another thing as well. I can count on one hand the number of Space Marines that have actually gone up against Primarchs. And none of them last very long at all. There's Raldoron jumping on the back and sticking his thing into, I think, Kurz's back. Conrad's back. That happened. There's Garrow and Mortarion. There is Sigismund going toe-to-toe with Fulgrim. Toe-to-toe. He does get backhanded, but I mean, It's not really, I don't really count that as a fair fight. Mick the Machine, thank you for your donation. Love you. Thank you. Every week. You legend. How would you have ended the book given the opportunity? That's a big question. How would have I ended the book? Okay, so I want to say something first. So I'm probably not going to answer that question because I don't know. But when it comes to ending really big series of things, it's really, really hard to stick the landing. The first thing that pops into my mind is Lost, the TV series. But then let's think of other huge lore expanding work. Okay, so the original 3 Star Wars had to end. And then we got Return of the Jedi. And Return of the Jedi has got a great first act, a great third act, throne room with Luke and Vader and the Emperor, anyone. And the bit in the middle with the teddy bears, not so good. But when you watched it for the first time, if you're old enough for that, or if you got to it green in this generation, but when you watched it for the first time, you were just swept away by the hype of it, to ignore the teddy bears in the middle bit and just love it. And then modern one is like Endgame after Infinity War. Infinity War is a really good Marvel movie, and Endgame, when you watch it, you're just swept along by it at the time. You thought, this is an incredible. And Endgame ends the Infinity Saga, and Return of the Jedi ends the original Star Wars trilogy. And then when you step away from Endgame, you think, 1 minute, this time stuff, and then it opens up all that Pandora box, which happens whenever you introduce time and multiverses and things like that. It's on reflection, Return of the Jedi wasn't the overwhelming masterpiece that it felt like at the time. And on reflection, the end and the Endgame isn't the overwhelming masterpiece that it felt like at the time. And The End and the Death isn't this overwhelming masterpiece that it felt like at the time when you read it. But when you read it, when you're in there and the clocks have run out, and a father kills a son with a stone, it is immense. But how do you end big, spanning, lore, implication type? How do you end a story like the first Star Wars trilogy? How do you end a story like the Infinity Stone saga or the Horus Heresy, where it ticks all the boxes and appeals to everyone all the time? You can't please everyone all the time. How do you do it? It's so hard to stick landing. There's very few TV shows that I know, or books, or that can stick that landing perfectly, because is it even possible? Now, what would have I done? There was room for a really cheeky revelation. There was room to change some of the core lore. So only those of us that read the book would have known something had fundamentally changed. Like they did with Alpharis and Omega, and like they did by introducing perpetuals into the thing. They could have changed something completely. It could have been Horus's dead body that we've been worshipping on the throne for the last 10,000 years. It could have been Malkador. It could have been something. There is a twist. There is something that they could have done. But I imagine, and I'm saying they because Dan Abnett would have had to have run that past the people who get to make these kind of decisions at Games Workshop, and they probably shot him down. I'm sure he had an idea or two. And I would have had some kind of revelation so that some of us would have known, and new people coming into the hobby, you could say, hey, here's a secret. Here's another secret that you don't know. Here's another secret that you don't know. Because these days, being a Black Library aficionado kind of feels a bit like that. I mean, those of us that are deep into the lore know a lot of layers and layers below layers that people who just play the game don't know. A lot of secrets and things, and I like that. It rewards you for your dungeon crawling, your dungeon hunting deep down. So I would have tried to do something like that, or at least asked if I'd have been allowed to fundamentally change the law at a base level somewhere. But the rest of it, I mean, Horus beats the Emperor 3 times. I understand that there are some people out there who think it's a bit long. And Dan Abnett just kept writing and doing Dan Abnett things. And the editor at Black Library said, just feed it to me, rather than try to actually edit it. And so we end up with this trilogy of books for one book for the end. And it's long. And there's a lot to it. And I understand that with a bit of editing, that could be sharpened up a bit. And on reflection, that would probably make it a better book, a better end to the Solar War, to the Horus Heresy. But having said that, the amount of lore that he stuffs in there and the amount of little nuggets and threads that he's dealing with when it comes to people like Ammit, Fafnir, Basilia Foe, Abaddon himself, Despoiler, the bit where Valdor sees the future through the eyes of the Despoiler, the birth of the Imperial religion, the new future with Cypher. There's so many implications that he's dealing with there that, as a fan of the Horus Heresy and as a fan of the lore, getting all of that in 45 hours worth of content was glorious. And I understand it could be sharper, but I wouldn't have minded if it was 4 books or 5 books. I wouldn't have minded if it was even longer, because I liked getting dragged down there into the dark where the clocks had ran out, and the horror of it. I liked it, even though it's hard doing it the second time. Again, was it the best ending? Was it the perfect ending? I don't know if we could have got the best ending. I don't know if we could have got the perfect ending. Was Return of the Jedi, did that end that trilogy perfectly? Did Endgame end that trilogy perfectly? Does Game of Thrones Season 8, did that end that perfectly? No, is the answer. I think Dan Abnett could have never written the book or the movie, or I don't think it can be done. Did he create something that I really enjoyed and that took me, that dragged me into it? Yes, he did. And is the Horus Heresy and the Siege of Terror worth reading? Yes, they are. Even if you're not a 40k fan, and if you are a 40k fan, then you should get them all either on Audible or on Kindle and make your way through them, with the exception of a couple of books, which everyone will tell you what those books are. And give yourself to this series for a couple of years while you work on a project. Guess it could be your thing. It could be a thing, your Audible project, your thing. Work on an army and say, right, I'm going to do the Horus Heresy, book 1, here we go. And knowing that you're going to finish that series in 3 or 4 years' time, or 2 or 3, in years' time. And the project would be finished and you'll be on to another project. Is that something we should all do? Yes. Yes, it is. Rant over. Where are we? A lot of reading for not learning anything new. A lot of reading for not learning anything new. Well, there's this boat and it sinks. It's done. Learn anything new? Did we learn anything new? Yeah. We must have. What did we learn new? There was many things that we learned new. There must have been some new things. Did we read the Horus Heresy as well to learn new things? Is that what we do? Do we read it to learn new things? No, is the answer. There is no new things in it. Wasn't there? Okay. Pandemonium, exactly. Pandemonium. You know, the bits. So that's new, like Pandemonium, the Yellow King, the bits when the Imperial Palace breaks from the Impossible City, breaks from the Vengeful Spirit. That fracturing, it says 16 million souls just died on Terra just because of that. Or no, in the solar, across the solar plane, he says. And some bits of these fractured realities get found later, but they will be not recorded in this story. They will become a thing of... is Pandemonium one of those bits? I think it is. But Dan did a fantastic job, in my opinion. Haven't read it yet, but I shall give it a go. Yeah. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't read Horus Heresy books to find new things. I read Horus Heresy books to immerse myself into the heresy. And these new things that pop out every now and then, when they do pop out, they're nice. They're nice little pluses. But it's not what I'm there for. We learned Magnus did everything won when Vulcan bitch slapped him. I know, man. That's a really good fight. Vulcan versus Magnus. The whole of the Solar War. There's so many bits. Like the Sons of the Selena. That one that Graham McNeil did was really good, and the fight between the Fury of Magnus and Vulcan was really good. And you can there's a page where Magnus says, "I did nothing wrong," or some words to that effect. And Vulcan says to him, "Yes, you did, and here they are." And it's a page of him listing this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. So you did this wrong, and it's you could tell that Aaron Dembski-Bowden is preaching to the audience there. He's like, "Yeah, you think Magnus did nothing wrong? Here's a bunch of things he did wrong." It was beautiful. I learned that even the novel writers don't give Perturabo the attention he is due. There's two Perturabos. I believe that there's two. There's the Perturabo, the petty Perturabo, and then there's the genius Perturabo. And I don't know who gives the pitch meetings for the Perturabo writers before they start writing Perturabo, but the genius Perturabo that comes up in Angel Exterminatus, for example, that fella, he's very interesting. I like that Perturabo. The petty Perturabo, though, that comes up in his Primarch novel, this other side of his personality, it feels like two different people rather than a side. They never pinned him down by the end, did they? Never. Warhawk, Mortarion vs. Khan. Epic fight. Exactly. Love it. Did you realize the Dark King was the Emperor and not Horus? Thank you, Simply Warhammer. I kind of... Yes. Not at the start, because they start mentioning the Dark King and the Emperor Must Die in the first book. They write it on the walls. The Emperor Must Die is in the first chapter of the first book. And then towards the end of the first book, they start talking about the Dark King. The Dark King. And pretty much straight away I thought, well, that could be either the Emperor or it could be Horus. And at this day of days, when the Chaos Gods are pouring everything they have into this one inevitable outcome, they don't care which one of them becomes the Dark King, whether it's Horus or the Emperor. Either one of them will sow ruin and destruction and be the end of all things. So yeah, I kind of got that it could be one or the other, and it was probably the twist was going to be when the twist for the Emperor came along, and Araman said it at the end of book 2. The Dark King isn't him, it's the other guy. No, I was pretty much there already, which is cool. But that's the ambivalence of the story, the blurriness of the story. It's supposed to be mush, take you into mush. Just finished book 237 of all the 40k stuff. Trust me, there's a lot more than 247 books of all the 40k stuff. There's many, many more than 247. Those are rookie numbers. You need to pump them up. There's terrible numbers. The Horus Heresy, with its all the novella and all the short stories is way over 100 books, and that's just one series. Oh dear. Yeah. What would have I done in the end? Yeah, I would have had a big twist. One of the things that I found a little frustrating as well, and I realised why he did it, is when the end happened after Horus kills, the Emperor kills Horus, you've got an hour and a half of fragments and bits and bits and bits, the tidying up and the tide going out and the collapse of chaos. And Dan, I'm talking about the future. We didn't get very much from the point of view of the Primarchs at that point. From Vulcan, from Dawn, from Valdor, from Guilliman. You didn't get much from them at all at that point. And I would have liked a little bit more. I see why they haven't done it though, because Valdor, I understand, will probably go straight to Pandemonium straight away and start on that plan because the despoiler. Guilliman, we barely touch on. I mean, at least you get a little bit of Cowboy Hal screaming earlier on in the book, and he tidies up the Solar War without visiting the minds of the major players in the Solar War to tell us how they're thinking and feeling. He tidies it up by explaining some stuff and looking through the eyes of some bit players, and deliberately stays away from the big players, which is a bit frustrating, but I understand why he did it. Because it would just set off 1,000 more questions. And also, we had enough of the big players by that point. Let's go back to the little people, you know? Dusk was the man. Yeah, because Dusk. What's his first name? Something Dusk. He was very good. Amon Telemacharius was also really good. We got some good Custodes action in this one as well. Enough so we felt the uniqueness of the Custodes as compared to the Space Marines. The uniqueness of Valdor as compared to Dawn, for example. Dusk was the man. I liked Grammaticus at the end going off and tying the threads and tying the threads and tying the threads. And the last we see of Grammaticus is in a cave below a mountain range, tying a thread. And he mentions the handprint on the cave, which is something that the Sigillite mentions, the handprint on the cave, which also ties back to the Master of Mankind and the symbols back then at the very start with the Emperor. It also gives us the opportunity to see Grammaticus again in the future, because he's moving through space and time now, tying the thread, and he'll be doing it for the rest of his life, using a feather, because the feather is sharp enough to cut reality. It's just, he doesn't need an anathema blade anymore. He's got the feather of the fallen angel. And yeah, I think we're going to see Grammaticus again at some. It'd be lovely to see. I like Grammaticus. He's good. Our common ancestry. They're busy. Basically, you'd need to pay the millions, and they might even say no to that, because as storytellers, rather than sit and tell you a story, they probably want to, as storytellers, tell as many people those stories as possible, not just you. What do you think about the Lillian Chase being in the Horus Heresy? Brilliant, love it. How is she still alive in Eisenhorn? Well, Basilio Foe changed bodies, so we have now gene splicing. She's also the archivist of the Library of Leng, which is the library of all. It's not just like the British Library, it's the library of all the hidden lore ever, and all the hidden powers and things like that. So yeah, good. She moves from body to body. Yes, that's definitely, yes, we get that. I think we'll get some more of her in. It's just nice. It's nice. It's good. I wanted more bits like that, particularly because of Pandemonium, because of the Yellow King, because of there could be more bits like that at the end of the Heresy, and there could be more bits like that in the third trilogy of the Beckwin of Ravenel versus Eisenhorn. But I imagine we're going to get it in the third one more. We didn't get anything from Sevatar. Sevatar's best end is in the Prince of Crows. That he basically deals with the Night Lords, and then of course goes with Kurz onto the Dark Angel's ship and gets captured there, and then ends up on Secundus. And Sevatar's story is kind of done early in the Heresy, and he is one of the best characters in the Heresy. Very, very much like him. Yeah, Grammaticus in the cave is a chef's kiss of an Easter egg. There's some really good things like that. When the light of the Dark King exploded and there was darkness in the deep, and then there was light across the face of the world. It's just a biblical bits. There's little Easter eggs like that throughout, which is really good. I really liked the answer to the question, was it a Custodes, a Space Marine, or a Guardsman? Question, they said yes, and did all of them. It was a Custodes, it was a Space Marine, it was a Guardsman. I like the fact as well, in the tarot game between Horus and the Emperor. So Horus and the Emperor's fight exceeded the physical plane. They fought each other on a physical level, they fought each other on a mental level, then they fought each other on a metaphysical level, and then they fought themselves in the warp, and then they fought themselves across time and space. Reality fractured around them, and they fought everywhere and everything at every time with everyone doing it. It became not just a battle, it became the battle of good versus dark. It isn't just Horus versus the Emperor. It is one of the great battles that happen between the forces of entropy and the forces of birth and renewal. The forces of it's written in the stars. It's cosmological, and they deploy different tools against each other when they do the tarot card fight. And the Emperor uses the Guardsman, the Space Marine, and the Custodes. And I also think that's a nod to what happens afterwards. It's what are the pillars that the Emperor rely on to hold his empire up? And it's the Guardsman, it's the Space Marine, it's the Custodes. It's those three. The only card that was missing there is the one of the Imperial Faith, which really raised him up at the end. And we didn't see that except through Keeler and the power of prayer, and but it's good. There's so much symbology there. He's dealing with a lot of symbology. Sevatar is life. Prince of Crows is the greatest story since the Bible. Prince of Crows, Aquaman Ancestry, is one of the best short stories in the Heresy. Yes, it's really good. It's criminal that it's one of the short stories as well, because there's some very key moments that happen in that book. It sums up the Thramas Crusade. You get a bit of the T'Challa engine. You get the shattering of the Night Lords. Essentially, it's the shattering of their. It's the last time they operated together as a legion was there. Ever, and it's told in a short story. And why did they break apart and go their different ways? Well, because Sevatar says, do what you... Because of that story. And it's in a short story. Why? You hate that tarot part of the book. Okay. Hi, Jelly. You like the bit where the lion fights Safari Joe? I thought that bit was awesome as well. And when the lion turns around and says, it's Morbin time. That was really cool. Yeah, I like the bit where Lionel Johnson touches down on Terra. And he's like, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum. And then he pulls out his 245 Magnums and starts blasting his way towards the Imperial Palace. I like that bit. Yeah. You were hoping for more Gulliman, not going to lie. Like I said that earlier, we didn't... There's so many threads. One of the bits missed is the fact that we get a lot of Dawn who's not really Dawn. We got a little of Valdor who's slowly losing his religion in the corner. That's him in the spotlight, losing his religion. We get that going on. We get Sanguinius. We get the Primarchs that we get. And then when we really want to get the bits out of them after it's over and where are they thinking and what are they feeling, we don't get that. And then the bits about the other Primarchs out in space that you really want to get there, but we don't get that. But if we did get that, then we'd get less of the bits that we got. It's, what do you put in? What do you leave out? How do you cover it all? The chapter with Lorgar was just strange. I know. The chapter with Lorgar was just strange. The chapter with the elves floating around their temple in the sky, that was a bit strange. I guess Dan Abnett saying, look, here are a bunch of elves in spandex jumping around their memory stone with these Harlequin dudes. Look at all these hippies here. This is also going on in the galaxy. We have pointy-eared hippie people who screwed everything. Remember these guys? That's what he was doing there. And then I think what he did with the Lorgar bit off to one side, with Lorgar going, 1 minute, Lorgar is thinking it could all go horribly wrong, but then there is another, his sister. And I think he's not really talking about you. He's talking more about the Abaddon thing, because, you know, controlled, not controlled, that's come. So Dan Abnett's saying, hey, look, there's these guys over here. So we've got those guys over there, those guys over there. He's trying to, and then we get a bit of Gulliman in space, that guy over there. So he gives us bits, but only bits. It would be nice if he had have gone into more depth with those things, but then we'd have missed the bits that we've got, and then the book would be 5 years longer instead of just 3 years longer. I don't like space elves. No one likes space elves. Anyone who tells you they like space elves are lying, okay? They don't like space elves. All they like is winning and beating their souls into oblivion, beating their opponents into oblivion. People who like space elves like pain and putting the milk in second. Take out the tarot sections. You can talk about more about Primarchs. Gilliman arriving's always been a huge part. I like that Abaddon was pretty terrified of Rupert by name alone. Yes. Abaddon, one of the bits that we got out of the book was we got a surprising amount of Abaddon from my mind. Where he is, what's he thinking? I need to be in control but not controlled. His vision of the future, his little taste of power that the gods give him through Erebus at the end of the book. We got a comfortable amount, so much of Abaddon in fact, that we didn't need as much Abaddon as we got. We got more than enough to set up the idea, okay, he's going to be the big bad going forward. We got that. Yeah. But that was covered well. Fighting with memories as a nod to big events. The whole heresy was a nice touch, maybe. Yeah, so the nods back and forwards at the end, he often looped it back to the Whisperheads and murder up there. Dersius up in the Whisperhead. There were little nods as well to moments throughout the heresy from the beginning, middle, and end, which he tied in as well, which was a really good job. It must have been so hard to write. There must have been so many threads that he decided that he must have had. The reason why I ended up with 3 books is because he had a bajillion threads to deal with, and a bajillion stories, and a bajillion people giving him ideas and suggestions, and also a bajillion things that he wanted to do himself. And that's how come it ended up as 3 books. And it must have been, even then, he was leaving stuff on the cutting room floor, bits that he like, I'd really like to talk about, but I can't. I'd really like to, but I can't. And at the same time, injecting some stuff in it for himself, for his meta universe that he's building with the Inquisition series. So it must have been so hard, and I think it was wonderful. I think it was lovely. Some people think he should have done this. Some people think he screwed it up. Some people there's that. I just think, as a work of art, is it flawed? Yes, it's flawed a little bit, but only because the subject matter, and only because of all only because there was so much that needed doing. I think it was impossible to bake a cake given all those ingredients. Instead of baking a cake, he made a tea party, because it's impossible to bake a cake with all those ingredients. You have to make the whole tea party. And I enjoyed the tea party. I enjoyed it very much and would definitely go back. And I did go back. You kind of like the Abaddon bits? I like the Abaddon bits, you know? Yeah, you're late, Krug. You are late. Did you miss? You missed. Well, we've been talking about the end and the death and the Horus Heresy for a while now. But if you want to pitch in, pitch in. Tarot sections were cool to me. Reminded me of the... Yeah, I like the tarot sections as well. I like the fact that it wandered off left, right, and all over the place and became metaphysical. I like that. It didn't stay in the physical plane. It was a war of gods. How do I express that this is a war of gods? I know. Let's play some tarot. Marius, thank you for your donation. You legend. I know you read on Kindle, but did you get your what? I haven't. Okay. The afterword. I haven't read the afterword. I need to read the afterword. Basically, I read it, and then as soon as I finished reading it, I went straight to Audible. So I haven't read the afterword, and that. Okay, I need to read the afterword. Is what you're saying. See, the thing is, when it comes to Dan Abnett stuff, I feel like because yeah. I always read his afterwords. They're always revealing. If you read the afterwords as well for example, the last Beckwin one, Pariah, I think it was called, that's really revealing. All of his afterwords there's always a nugget or two in there, something. So I feel like I haven't just let you down, I've let myself down. I need to read the afterword to End of the Death. I read all of them. Why haven't I read it? I feel stupid. I will read it. Thank you. I don't need a copy. Thank you. But you can tell me something that was like, yes, in there, please, words. If there's something I need to know right now, tell me. Tell me, damn you. Ah, dear. But yeah, it was an emotionally draining period of books. I don't think he missed the mark. I do think it could have been better, but I don't know how it could have been better. I don't know how possibly how could have anyone else tried to tell that story and make it work for everyone who's reading it and give everyone all the bits that they wanted. The bits that went well, Abaddon went really well. See, the Dawn thing was good. The Dawn is changed now, which will explain the Iron Cage and how come he was led astray in that. Valdor is changed beyond a measure, and Valdor also will now be the only one of the good guys who knows about Abaddon. Knows about the Despoiler, knows about the next tech. He knows. By the time the Emperor goes on the throne, he knows. So where's Valdor been all this time? He leaves. He leaves and starts with his new plan straight away. And then we know Guilliman's around for a while, and the rest. Yeah. One thing was Dan mentions the brief included he had to leave room for mystery. Kind of explains why he didn't get much after the fight. Yeah, I mean, of course, Dan has to leave room for mystery. He must. I've seen a couple of interviews with a couple of Black Library writers now talking about the 2nd and the 11th Primarchs and the 2nd and the 11th Legion. And all of the authors that I've seen asked about it says that they wouldn't want to do it and they don't want to do it. And they've all given various reasons. But the main reason is mystery. The fact that those two legions aren't here anymore. That hole. You need these mysteries. You need these holes. You need these gaps for a good narrative. The second, Legion 2. The second Legion, Leto. You know he's second Legion, right? One of the and we know what happened to the. While we're talking about spoiler talks, we know what happened to the two legions. We do know what happened to the two legions. We know one of them was destroyed by the Space Wolves because burning Prospero, Thousand Suns. We're told by more than one source that the Emperor's executioners, the Space Wolves, the Venrikivelka, have done this before. It's happened before. Leman Russell himself says it. So we know that one legion was extinguished. And then the second legion, or the 11th legion, we know what happened to them because Perturabo in Angel Exterminatus, and also there's a slight aside in which of the short stories is it? Can't remember. But the most obvious one is in Angel Exterminatus when he talks about the mind conjunction that he has with the Emperor of Mankind. They all go back, all the Primarchs, when they got found, go back to Terra and take their oath of moment to the Emperor. And Perturabo explains that it's not just an oath of moment, it's also a psychic joining with the Emperor that all the sons have gone through. So it's not I worship you and this is what we're going to do and this is my oath of moment, but also a psychic communion with the Emperor. Perturabo explains those two things. He says that it was the most terrifying moment of his life, that it horrified him. And I forget who he's talking it to. He's talking it through with Lorgar. Wasn't that the same for you, brother? And Lorgar's like, no, what are you talking about? I thought it was rather... Oh, no, Fulgrim. I thought it was rather refreshing. So it just tells you something about Perturabo. And Perturabo also says that not all of us made it. He says that we know what happens to those that failed. So, one of the legions, one of the Primarchs, failed. Because Perturabo is talking it through with Fulgrim about this momentous mind thingy-bob stuff, and they both are like, and they turn silent and refuse to speak about it. One of them didn't make it. So there's the two Primarchs. Missing Primarchs. One of them didn't make the mind meld with the Emperor of Mankind, so his story was cut short quite earlier on. And the second one was wiped out by the Space Wolves. Mystery solved. Lee 2 was a nod to the actual model name at Games Workshop for a concept Space Marines decade ago, was it? Lee 2 was a nod to the actual model name at Games Workshop for a concept Space Marine decade ago. Would Dan Abnett know that? Would Dan Abnett, who was not writing for Games Workshop decades ago and was writing comic books for Marvel, and would he know that? I doubt it. Maybe he did. Maybe they told him about it. Maybe he stuck it in there. Okay. So he does. Dan mentions Lee 2 in the afterword. He's a direct reference to Lee 2, the first Space Marine model. He is. Okay. It is in the afterword. So I definitely need to read this afterword then. Yeah. Okay. I definitely need to do it. Damn it. I thought it was Legion 2. It's a reference to that. That makes it less into... Oh, okay. Never mind. Did you feel a little underwhelmed with the Emperor prowess fighting Horus? No. Because the Emperor... So, yeah, I mean, the Emperor gets beaten up 3 times. The first time he loses, the Emperor sticks him on the throne, crowns him. The second time he loses, he smashes his head in with Worldbreaker. And the third time he loses, no, he wins the third one. He wasn't fighting a man, he was fighting the 4 Chaos Gods in warp space. Could have the Emperor did... The Emperor... his power was he moved the thing, he moved the walls wider, the bit that Sanguinius squeezed down the feet. He was like, he did that. He did the let there be light thing, which helped loads of people and helped relight the Astronomicon. He did loads of stuff. His power was incredible, but he was literally fighting the gods of the warps. So, yeah. I mean, what could the Emperor do better, worse, harder against Horus? He fought him across space and time and the warp, the immaterial. I think it was okay. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. I liked it. One of the bits that stood out to me as a lawmaster type question, as a law type deal, is one of the conversations that gets thrown around quite often is the Emperor of Mankind should have really told his sons all about the warp and about chaos and not kept it secret. And then if he'd have told all of his sons all about the warp and not kept it secret, then we could have avoided all this sort of thing and it would have been lovely. But he didn't. So therefore, all of this is the Emperor's fault. All words to that effect. That's one of the arguments that's used. That's one of the things that people talk about. Horus, when he gives up his power at the end, Horus kills the Emperor. Loken says, look, give it up. So you just killed your father. Give yourself time to grieve. And he goes, all right, I'll give it up. Because he also likes to let the pain go. He gives it up. And then he realizes he's been tricked and it's the Emperor there. And then he feels the power of chaos rushing back into him. Like they're panicked. They're like, oh no, quick. Ugh. And he looks to his father and it says, if it is within your power, kill me now. Please, kill me now. If it's within your power to do so, kill me. There's a line that Dan Abnett puts in it, which is, Horus can see finally for the first time, perhaps only as his father did, that this secret about chaos, which should always remain hidden, and which had remained hidden for 30,000 years, was a terrible thing to behold. Horus realizes that some secrets, some truths are so horrific they should always be kept a secret. Horus agrees with that and echoes that and says that and thinks that right at the end when he feels the power of chaos rushing back into him. He sees his father's eye, because he's only got one at this point, and a broken spine and all the other stuff, and he's been set on fire. He sees the look in his eye, and he has that full burst of revelation for the first time in an entire existence as all the stuff is coming through. Like he gets to, he sees everything. I think that's what Dan Abnett says. He sees the whole of everything, and just as the Emperor does, and he sees chaos just as the Emperor does. He sees everything, and he's like, some truths are so horrifying they should always be kept a secret, just as the Emperor kept this secret for 30,000 years. So it kind of defeats the argument that people have been making, which is the Emperor should have just told everyone. I mean, this is an argument that Erebus and Corpheron and Lorgar and some of the Mournival had right at the very start of the Horus heritage, which is, hey, if only the Emperor had been more open with his sons and revealed some of this stuff to them, then all of this stuff would have gone away. It would have been fine. And therefore it's the Emperor's fault because he kept some of it a secret. But Horus himself, when sees the full truth of his folly and his plight and the horror and things, even Horus says, this should have always remained a secret. Damn it, why couldn't it have always remained a secret? Some truths are just too, what was the exact words? Anyway, words along those lines, and it was like confirmation, boom, straight from the Chaos guy and the In the Imperial guys' POV, the only way to fight chaos properly, entirely, is to be completely ignorant, or try and maintain as much ignorance of it as you possibly can, and build a webway, and build a religion based around science, not religion, an imperial truth, science, reason, things like that, webways, none of the stuff. Anyway, any more questions and things? Hour in. We're an hour in. I'm pleased that this isn't as busy as all the other chats that we get. I'm pleased that you guys are here with me. Either you've all read it, or you don't care, or you just like hearing me talk, and you're just here and you're loving it, and it's fine. I'm pleased that overall there's a bit less than normal, because that tells me that there are some people out there who would be here, but have decided not to be here because they don't want to spoil the story for themselves. And it really is a great story, and I didn't want to spoil it for anyone, which is why I did this a couple of weeks after the end of the death, because I wanted to have a conversation with you guys, with my community, and give you guys the opportunity to finish, the ones who wanted to be here. So I appreciate that some of you are here. I appreciate that some of you stayed away. I did want to talk about it. The line that stuck with me, and I don't know the answer to, I will wait for you. I will wait for you. I forgive you. Does he say I will wait for you, or I wait for you? I think he says I wait for you, or I will wait for you. I forgive you. Yeah. I mean, that is deliberately vague. Obviously, I wonder if he's talking to two people. If I will wait for you, he's talking to the Chaos Gods. I will wait for you on the Golden Throne. I'll wait for you. And then the other line, I forgive you, to Horus. Is he talking to, or is that deliberately set? I mean, it's deliberately vague. It's yeah. I'm pleased with the catharsis of this conversation. I have no friends that have finally caught up yet, or just spoilers. Missing, yeah. It can be cathartic. Well, you can give the book another go, Mick. I'm not sure if my words are wise. I enjoyed it while I was going through it. It's just such a big piece of work for him to. Speechless. How did the lion end up with his shield? Well, you need to read the book called Lion, Son of the Forest, and it'll tell you how he ended up with his shield. I can spoil it for you because we are on spoiler talk here. The Emperor gave it to him. How did the lion wake up? We don't know. Why did the Emperor wake up where he did? We don't know. The lion essentially comes back from the dead by walking through forests out into real space. And he starts off with his armor and his sword and his stuff straight away in his armor. And then he walks through more forest to another place, to another place, to another place. Just, he's returning, wakening. He's got powers clearly. And then halfway through the book, the Emperor says, here, go have a shield. Because the Emperor's got shields, swords, all sorts of... The Emperor's got loads of weapons, more than enough to give away to his sons. There is a awakening. There is a psychic awakening happening across the galaxy right now, and the Primarchs is coming out. Where is Mr. Land? I don't know, man. He, in the second book, second to the end, Echoes of Eternity, Mr. Archon Land, very interesting character, escaped inside the Sanctum Imperialis. Whether he's still alive or not, don't know. He's one of ADB's characters, though. And he is a bit player. So again, one of these tied up threads that Dan Abnett probably thought, well, I'll leave that one alone. I'll leave that to ADB. We like Mr. Lando, Archon Land. He's great. You think the lion woke up because the old king in the boat was fishing for him? Sigil magic. Everything is configurations. Everything is symbols, metaphor, parables. And the king fishing in the boat. Well, you've got a king who's being patient, who's biding his time, and fishing, and fishing, and fishing. And that's just a parable of what the emperor is. And the lion's self-apotheosis, self-manifestation. Warp stuff is happening around the lion, and he gets a shield as well. That's about as clear and as vague as the lion story is, and we haven't had any more than that. I thought we might get more with the Cypher book. No. We don't really know what's happening in the future now with Guilliman the lion. We don't know. But yeah, it's all vague. They like their words. Yes, the end of Saturnine was good. Saturnine was an epic book. It's one of the best ones in the Solar War. Yes, the death of Tybalt Mar, the either or the or in Saturnine. Saturn is probably the best one in the series. The book where the part in the middle where you get Erda just dropping truth bombs about the Emperor and even saying one of his earlier names. He was called Kevin back then. And Kevin did this and that. I mean, that section where she just drops truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb is the most the most and clearest and truest exposition dump that we get of the Emperor of Mankind from a third party source. And it just blew me away the first time. I remember reading it on the Kindle. I was on holiday at the time and taking screenshot of the Kindle on the phone of that section. It's like, because I'm going to keep going with the book, because I'm reading the book and it's exciting and it's Saturnine, it's the Siege, and I'm reading it. But I wanted it on the phone, and I got like 30 shots on the screenshot so I could go back and just pull apart each sentence and each thing from each paragraph and just read it again. The truth, amazing. Thanks, Adam. See you later. The Lion story is a bit of a dud compared to the Gathering Storm and the Dark Imperium. Marius Gage, how dare you? Okay, so the Gathering Storm and the Gathering Storm series, the trilogy, wasn't written in books form. It was just, they're not well written. The first one is really good, where Guilliman wakes up. It's not Guilliman waking up. The first one is the cracking of Cadia. That's half good. The second one in the Gathering Storm is the fracturing of Belltown, which is terrible. The third one is Guilliman waking up, which is really good at the start and really bad at the end. And then the Godblight and the mushroom farming Nurgle crusade that we have against Mortarion and Guilliman in Ultramar, and Guilliman's return book, which is called Dark Imperium. Guilliman's return book, Dark Imperium. These are okay books. These are good books. These are good to okay books. They're good. But The Lion, Son of the Forest, that is a really good book. As a good standalone book. If you read Dark Imperium, which is Guilliman waking up, and it's the book that dropped with 8th edition. 8th edition came back. We had a new Primarch. Here's a book. Wow, I need that book straight away. Let me read it. You read it straight away. And it starts off before Guilliman died, tells you about the thing, and Fulgrim sticking him, and him going in the stasis thing, and then him waking up a bit later. And you do get some of Guilliman's angst and internal dialogue and regrets and doubts as he's having the conversation with the prayer guy in the book, because you've got Guilliman talking to a confessor from the church. Guilliman, obviously imperial truth and logic, science, reason. He's having a big conversation off and on through the book with this churchy guy, and he makes this churchy guy the first historian to learn some of the histories and things that have been lost. and he gets together. Oh no, that's in the Dawn of Fire series. I'm getting my lore mixed up. Anyway, has a chat with this big priest guy, and some of his chats with the priest guy about the church and about this. I mean, he blows this guy 10,000 years on, and he's like, he's talking about the church, and Guilliman's like, no, there weren't this many Primarchs. There were that many Primarchs. He was like, and some of them went bad. And then this and that, he's just dropping truth bomb after truth bomb onto this priest, and this priest is blown away by them and thinks, well, I can't exactly call him a heretic because he was there and he's the son of the god. And da-da. So those bits are good. Those bits are good in the Dark Imperium. The rest is a bit... Whereas the book For the Lion, the Son of the Forest, as a standalone bit of book, his waking up, his thing with the forest, his story, and it has... As a standalone, I'd recommend a bunch of other books before I recommend Dark Imperium, but I would recommend Lion, Son of the Forest to anyone out there. Also, the Vault of Terror series, Guilliman arriving on Terra, that was the Dawn of Fire series. Dawn of Fire book 1 is good. Freita Matau, yes. Yes. The Emperor loves us all. Guilliman lied. I'm not sure if the Emperor is capable of love anymore. See, that's the other interesting thing. When he gave up the mantle of the Dark King, he gave up a bit of himself, including his compassion and his humanity. He gave up his humanity in order to try and defeat Horus, not because he thought that he wouldn't be able to defeat Horus without it, that he would somehow become... He might somehow become hesitant, like, I can't kill him, he's my son. I mean, it's quite clear from the Master of Mankind that he only calls them my son. He only plays the father-son relationship to them. It's part of one of the aspects he wears. But clearly in Master of Mankind, with some of his eternal dialogue, he sees them as numbers, as tools, like a bolt gun, like a car, like a aeroplane, something he just uses in order to, a mug, something he just uses in order to get what he needs, and he uses cars and mugs and aeroplanes and number 1 and number 15 to use. They're just items to him. The father-son thing is an aspect. So he doesn't need his compassion and he jettisons it, not because it's something that will slow him down, but it's something that the Chaos Gods might use back against him through Horus. So the fact that he's lost what makes him a human, he's lost his humanity in order to confront Horus, kind of answers the question what Guilliman saw when he was in the throne room later chatting to the Emperor of Mankind. He's like, he was a bit horrified by the whole experience because the Emperor didn't come across as the Emperor always came across as to him before. He's not all there now. He's not all there. I thought Dan Abner overwrote that stuff from Master of Mankind. I got the impression that the writers really disagreed on that. ADB did Master of Mankind. It's my understanding that the Black Library writers really got on with each other and really enjoyed the process of sharing and creating together. And some of them talk about it with genuine fondness. And I love that. Imagine being a fly in the writer's room. Because once a month, every month, they gathered, shared ideas, brainstormed ideas, talked to things through. The creative juices that were flowing in that room must have been juicy. Absolutely juicy. As a shapeshifter, was the Emperor ever human? The shapeshifter was a human, 100% human. He didn't necessarily shift his shape at all. he probably, underneath it, was the same dude all along. But other people saw a different emperor. Everyone who looked at him saw a different thing. He was able to change his aspect, how he was seen by others. So sometimes by others he was seen as a revelation. Sometimes as others he was seen as the 9-foot tall golden demigod emperor. Sometimes from others he was seen as a scientist. And there are many occasions in the Horus Heresy where more than one person is looking at him and they see different things. So in the first Heretic, Lorgar sees a different thing to the word bearers at the same time. In Fury of Magnus, Vulcan and Magnus see different things at the same time. So he was always human, but his aspects changed depending on who was looking at him at what time and depending on what the Emperor wanted you to see. Dan Abnett does seem to write the Imperium and the Emperor with more fondness than ADB. I think ADB is a lot more interested in... It's quite clear that ADB enjoys the rich narrative that comes through from the bad guys, from the Chaos guys. And it was surprising to everyone, including ADB, that he wrote The Master of Mankind. But yeah, they're both like... Both of the authors are very character-driven authors. They like to get into the feelings and the weeds and the histories and the backstories of their characters. And I think ADB is drawn to the fertile ground of the bad guys and chaos. And Dan Abnett is drawn more to the human side of things. And that's good that we have two fantastic authors that their proclivities, their itches, bring them in different directions to show you different sides of the same coin or different visions of the Imperium. It's nice. It's good. We are blessed. ADB writes like Scorsese directs. That's probably an amazing compliment. Probably. So the Emperor is a dwarf. The Emperor is definitely not a dwarf. The Emperor is a human perpetual. And a psyker. Not all perpetuals are psykers. Not all psykers are perpetual. Yeah, he is. The Emperor of Mankind is an ancient... So the perpetuals believed, but they didn't know. This is one of the things that Erda says. That during the birth and the evolution of the human race, and as we came into a modern humanity from after our cave-dwelling ancestors, that perpetuals were born one after the other, bit by bit, and it was the perpetuals' job to help shepherd humanity through their psychic awakening, through their apotheosis from chimpanzees with supercomputers in their forebrains to a galactic civilization. And some of them took it more literally than others. And in amongst these perpetuals, some of them were psychic, some of them weren't. And in amongst them, you had the Emperor of Mankind, who is and was one of the most powerful psychers in the galaxy. There's plenty of powerful psychers out there, but he's up there. Yeah. I'm not sure if he's an alpha level threat though, because alpha level threats can literally like blink and make the sun go out. But he's up there. He's definitely up there. Finding out the Emperor was Alexander the Great was a neat bit. It was, wasn't it? Little bits like that. Little nuggets like that throughout the story. Very, very good. Anyway, that's the end of the death. That's a big spoiler talk. I think we'll wrap it up. thank you for joining. Thank you for all your likes and subscriptions, and thanks for being here and things. It's brain melting, isn't it? When you're trying to, it's difficult. But I loved it. I loved the end and the death. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Thank you, Marius. Thank you for joining the 13th at Tier 3. You are a legend. I hope you enjoy all the extra battle reports that you'll get every single Winter's Wednesday. Tomorrow on the Winter's Wednesday, there's another Horus Heresy one tomorrow. I put out an extra one for Tier 3 channel members on Monday. That is the Space Hulk one. So there's a Space Hulk / 40k game that we played. That's a new one, Maris. You'll enjoy that one. But Heresy tomorrow, and then Sunday there's a 40k one. My brain is fried. Because some of the questions that came up, and now I'm thinking about the end and the death again, and thinking I need to read it again. But yeah, I'm fried. I feel like a frag grenade has just gone off. I'm like stun locked. But it's been emotional. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for all being you. And yes. Happy